Hey, it's Erin Patrice, the heart behind the Breaking Bread Village, and this is the Max Loves Midland show.
Welcome back to the Max Loves Midland show. I'm Kevin LaDuke, your weekly tour guide, and this is now, I think, like episode 19 of the Max Loves Midland show and the fourth one of 2025, but it's one that I'm really, really excited about. So with me today is somebody that is a change maker. They're a citizen, they're a wife, they're a mother, and so happy to have you with us. Most of all, it's just Erin. This is my friend Erin.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me. I'm super excited. Well,
absolutely. So Erin, it's so great to have you here, and I told you you've been on the list since day one as somebody I wanted to have on the show, and kind of keep those friends in your back pocket that you know can come on in short notice. And we really appreciate you being here with us today at JNC Media, and we're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna talk about the Breaking Bread Village. But most of all, I think people need to get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit about me. Okay, let's go.
Absolutely. So I always love the beautiful colors you're always wearing. And
Thank you.
I never know what glasses you're going to walk in with. And I always have glasses envy when I see you. And that even goes through your bloodstream because I told you I have glasses envy from your son as well. And so I'm just trying to, I'm trying to get on your level with the glasses. And maybe we'll do that. I don't have the earrings, though. I used to have the big cubic zirconia. I had that era.
Oh, did you? Okay,
yeah, the backwards hat with the cubics,
yeah.
But...
that was an era.
That was an era. So, but Erin, I'm a little bit curious. But now, how long have you lived in Midland for?
I have been saying 20 years for the last several years. So I'm assuming it's over 20. It has to be over 20 because my youngest son was 4 when we moved here, and he is now 22, 23. Man, I don't know how many years we've been here. We've been here for a while. So, but I know it's at least 20 years. No, it's at least 20 years.
And we're so happy to have you here in town. And what was that like coming here to Midland from where you were, and what inspired that move for you to be here?
Yeah, so when I first moved here, so let me preface it with this. My aunt moved here back in the 70s.
Okay.
So during that era, I call it the Great Migration, when Dow hired a lot of people from different backgrounds to come here and work here. So she moved here back in the 70s. And so I used to visit when I was a child, visit her during holidays. And I would always say, like, why does anybody live here? Because back then there were no Meyer, wasn't a lot of stuff. So it was very vacant in some spaces, right? So, and a lot of snow, and that was not my thing.
Well, Midland was never supposed to go north of Saginaw Road, I don't think. And then
really?
The expressway is really what drove a lot of that development out there.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I moved from Cincinnati, Ohio, big city. My family all lives down in Houston. I have family in Detroit. So I've always been around big cities. So smaller cities was never my thing. And so when I first moved here, I moved here because I was in a domestic violence situation, and my mother, my aunt was like, come here, start over. I wanted to leave, didn't quite know what to do, how to reinvent myself. So they said, come here, the schools are good. That was the selling point, right? Because I had 4 small children. So they said, come, schools are great. So that's what I did. And it was difficult, of course, at first because it just was so small. I just wasn't accustomed to that.
Right.
Like the mall at the time, I'll never forget this. I went there and I asked the lady where the elevator was because I never saw a mall without another floor.
It was the first story mall you've ever seen.
We call those plazas, right, back home. So I never saw that before. And I remember she said, "Honey, this is it." And she had this like little twang to her voice. It was so cute. She said, "This is it. You're seeing it." So that kind of stuff was interesting. Not being able to order anything else except for pizza, delivery, and blinking lights at 9. So it was just a lot of different things that I had to get acclimated to. And then too, also, let's just say what it is, right? I just wasn't used to the lack of diversity.
Right.
I'd never seen that before. I've never been in a space where it was predominantly anything, right? We just had a really good mix, in my opinion, growing up. So yeah, we had communities in Cincinnati that were predominantly white, predominantly black, predominantly Hispanic, what have you, but never like this. So
if I would have went back in time and interviewed you at that specific moment that you moved here, maybe just a month after you moved here or so, and I asked you, is Midland home? Is this where you're going to be at? What would you have said?
Oh, I would have said no. Yeah, I went through a very hard transition. I just was not used to not having community. I was not used to not being able to go to the corner store and get hair products. Yeah. That was back when women still wore pantyhose, and I couldn't find the coffee to mix to match my legs. So I would have to drive to Saginaw, and so which was fine, but I live here. So at that time, no, a month later, I probably would have been very sad and just not super excited. And it's funny because, I mean, it snowed maybe 14 days straight when I first moved here. So that in itself was not fun. So yeah, no, I wouldn't have called this home. No.
And Cincinnati's kind of the fake South, right?
It is.
It's not the real South, but it's there on the Kentucky-Ohio border. It's kind of the fake South. And
it is.
You'll hear a little Southern drawl in those voices.
Yeah.
And you're like, 14 days of snow, what is this?
And you know what's funny is that Cincinnati had snow, right? We get snow,
course.
but not, we had seasons, in my opinion. And here it was just continual. It was like it never ended.
It's like 2 seasons.
I'm like, what is going on? So yeah, that was difficult. Yeah, it was definitely, and I definitely would not have called it home. I mean, do I now? Of course, but yeah, at that time, yeah, I kept saying, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Why did I come here? What's my purpose here? It was a lot of things that went through my head.
So do you have a catalyzation moment where you realize, this is home and this is why I feel this way here? Was it maybe an experience with the schools, with your kids going to schools here? Or how did it really feel? Or what was that moment? Or was it kind of gradual over time?
You know what? There was not a moment. The first probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years that I still kind of wondered, why am I here? Were my children, did I feel like my children were happy and thriving? Yes. I mean, they were doing well. So as a parent, that was cool for me. So I was good with that.
Yeah.
But as an individual, as myself, I was still wondering, what am I doing here? Because it was really hard to find community in the sense that a lot of the moms didn't invite me to the mom group stuff, right? And a lot of it was because I just was very different, right? I had these colors, and I was just, the way I carried myself was a little different than what they were accustomed to in some regards. So I think they just didn't know. I want to think that they didn't know how to approach me. That's what I want to think.
Of course. Believe in the good in people if we possibly can.
For
although
sure.
we know that that's not always the case, unfortunately.
Yes, yes.
So let's talk a little bit about your family then.
Yeah.
And how many kids do you have?
4.
4.
Mm-hmm.
What was their journey like in Midland Public? Or what was their school journey like when up the ladder?
So when my children first moved here, I always got reports back that they were loud, rambunctious. It was a lot of words that were used. And so I would ask, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And how do I solve that as a parent at home while they're there at school? And so, granted, I mean, growing up, we grew up in the inner city of Cincinnati, so they probably were rambunctious. They probably were, they wrestled and they did things. 4 boys, right? So they would always find ways to.
You were outnumbered.
I was kind of tomboyish, right? So I kind of, played around. I love that they were like that, right? But the teachers didn't, and I understand that, right?
Yeah.
Now, at the time, it was frustrating because it's like, well, what do I do? How do I acclimate them to this new setting? Because they wanted the children to be a little bit more subdued and a little bit more conservative, and we just didn't come from that, right? So my question and challenge to the teachers were, well, how can you help them get acclimated and help them still be themselves, but kind of mesh in this space? And so that was challenging. Now, granted, we had some really good teachers that realized that they were good boys, right? They had great hearts, and so they really helped navigate them through those times. But it was hard. And I mean, they dealt with a little bit of racism. I mean, that happened. I mean, children say things that they hear other people say, and they think it's funny sometimes. I mean, they had friends that would say things about their curly hair, or tell them they should be gangsters because they're things that they hear other people say, and or that they see on a TV show and things of that nature. So they went through a little of that also. But I think that because 3 of them play sports, I mean, they were, when you play sports, you're just kind of you're in. And so people
Absolutely.
appreciate when you entertain them, so to speak. And then my other son, my youngest son, found his space in the artistic world. So he started getting into theater and all that good stuff. And then theater family is just its own thing, right? So they were able to find where they belonged, so to speak. So, yeah.
And, your boys are they all out of the house now?
They are.
And
Hallelujah.
All over different spaces?
Yes. I have one down in Texas, and then 3 still live here in Michigan, but they're all in different cities. So, yeah.
You got to have that schedule filled when you can go on these vacations and you can go visit around and do the trips.
I know. I told him, I said, if I wasn't married, I would just spend time with each of y'all, like 3 months here, 4 months there, and just kind of lay on their couches or something like that. But yeah, I'm proud of them.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And I love like seeing your posts, and you're always sharing great things about your kids. I know you got some athletes, you got some artists. And,
MMA fighter. He started MMA fighting.
That's incredible.
I know.
How does that make you feel as a mom, though?
You know, I don't want to see him get hit, of course, quite naturally. I was really proud of him for like following his path. I've always preached to them, be who you are.
Your path.
Your path, not mine. I try not to like make them feel like they have to live up to anything except for being true to themselves, right? Make sure you're happy and can take care of yourself. Don't call me every day asking for money. But if you need some, I'm here, right? And so, I think, and we're going to have a discussion about this one day too, about the life after sports, because I think that my son, when that ended, he had been playing sports since he was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And then played in college for like 5 years because we had a COVID year, then they had like the senior year. So you have all these extra years. And once that ended, I think he just didn't know what to do with himself. Like he didn't know what was next. And then he said, I'm going to be an MMA fighter. And most of those people are like, do it for a long time training. And he just went out there and did it and learned and trained and ended up winning a belt. Like he has a picture with the belt. And I know. I was like, oh, so yeah.
Well, awesome. The journey continues. I guess sports didn't end.
No, exactly. So, yeah, I'm pretty proud of him. I'm a little nervous at times. I don't know if I want to see it, but I do want to see it because I want to support him. But I only want to see him hit other people not get hit.
Well, he played football, right?
He played football, yeah.
Okay, so took a little bit of that skill set over and that athleticism and applied it in a different way. That's amazing to start at like 24, 25 years old and have a belt.
I know, and anime. He mixes anime. That's God, true.
Anime culture's great, though.
He does. He mixes those two things. So, yeah, it's been interesting but fun. I love it.
Amazing. And you touched on it a little bit, but coming here to Midland, you've had all sorts of experiences that are very uniquely yours. And we all have experiences that are uniquely ours, but I think your story, it's really wonderful that you feel comfortable enough to share with us.
Sure.
And I think that has to be a challenge all on its own. So I want to thank you for being so open and honest. Really, throughout all the work that you do in every space that you're in, you show up authentically yourself, and you always bring that story directly to the people. So I want to talk a little bit about the formation of the Breaking Bread Village. And it's a story we've talked about before, but I think Breaking Bread Village is really doing the boots on the ground work, like the real community change. There was a lot of conversation, obviously, in the wake of the death or the killing of George Floyd.
Sure.
And when that happened, a lot of people were looking for places to turn and looking for some sort of facilitation of conversation and how can we have a dialogue. And you really took that to heart and you applied that to our community in such an incredible way. So what did that look like for you, and how did you know this is what I need to be doing?
Yeah. So 2020, right? It's so funny when I go and speak places.
5 years ago now.
I know. And when you say 2020, people just automatically have some type of memory, right? That kind of...
Yeah, we think about Kobe. No, I'm kidding.
Right. And we... I'm sorry. And so 2020, right? We had a presidential election. We had a pandemic.
Yeah.
We had social justice issues with George Floyd, right? It was so much going on that I think that people either exploded or imploded, right? People did not know how to process all of that. We are accustomed to dealing with things, maybe one thing over here, two things over there. But I think so much was happening in such a big way that people had no idea how to process it. And so what we do as humans sometimes, we just turn on each other. We get upset with each other. We kind of rage, talk, right? And instead of trying to seek within on, okay, why do I feel this way? What's going on? How can I maybe help? So that was going on in 2020. And I don't know, I sat back on social media and it just was getting just crazy. I mean, people were saying crazy things to each other. And these are people that were like, you know, the little cute lady that crochets and knits, right? That never says anything, was wishing death on people because they didn't wear a mask or wouldn't get vaccinated, right? I mean, that stuff was really happening. And heard of people in relationships that split up, People were no longer invited to family dinners. And so that was troublesome to me and disheartening because I said, wow, I can't even imagine telling a family member that I would not want to break bread with them anymore.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are some things maybe that would be a deal breaker for me, but for the most part, I want to still love you and be around you. And so that's what happened. I mean, I am a person that believes, okay, we got to do something. We can't just complain. We can't gripe about it and sit here and sulk and die within. We have to do something. And I think that all of us have abilities and have things that we can bring to the table. And so that's something that I did. I don't fear like talking to people. I don't care if we have a difference of opinion or a difference of thought. And so that's kind of where that was birthed out of.
And you've met a lot of people since that space, so I'm assuming your circles have changed a lot since the formation of the Breaking Bread Village, and you have so many amazing people that help you out and help bring this to life. And just want to recognize them a little bit, too, because you do such a good job at building them up and thanking them, and we want to make sure that we do it on the show, too.
Yes.
And even you right now, you're just beaming.
I know, I love them. I mean, they are really, and I get emotional, but I don't know why, because these are people that I did not know. I mean, like, couple of them I knew ahead of time, but most of them just kind of came about with the work and had passion for it as well. A love for myself, I guess, and then them. And so, we've just grown together, become a family. And I mean, I will mention one person, Jared, who I met with the blue light stuff. He was helping them with some music things, and I was telling him about what we're going to start working on. He said, I'm there to help in any way. And he's been with us since that first day with a little iPad.
It's incredible.
My husband, of course, I mean, he's been rocking with me and supporting it. It's just so many, I mean, Alexis, I mean, I can name all of them, Saeed, I mean, people just help in different ways. And and Melissa, my assistant, has helped. I mean, I want to make sure I mention the people, but then if I forget someone, but
I think they will forgive you.
They've been great, though. I mean, because they really support the vision and the mission, and that's so important to me. It is so important that people in this type of work support it, right? The vision, and you can't kind of half support it with things like this. When we're trying to create change, you have to kind of be all the way in or not in at all. For me, anyway, because that's the real work, is showing up 100% and saying, I really want to ignite change. Yeah.
It's interesting. When we put this in our community's vision statement, Midland, an inclusive community, we have to ask ourselves what that means and what that change looks like. But I think that you really put it on display right on stage as part of the Breaking Bread Village. So how does the Breaking Bread Village function, and what does that look like when you see it in practice? Yeah,
so the whole point behind it is bringing different people together from different perspectives. And what I found is that we talk about inclusion, right? That has been such a word that we've used for the last 4 years that everybody doesn't really believe the same meaning of that word, right? And so inclusion for some means that I want you to at least align with my thoughts a little bit, right? Because if you don't, then we're the enemy almost. I mean, that's how I take things sometimes, right? Where people look at it like, okay, you have to be an enemy. And so for us at the Breaking Bread Village, inclusion means everybody's thoughts, everybody's voices, because the heart of it is serving our community. This work is all about serving the community. And for me, a good leader, a good servant cannot choose and pick who they serve. Like, you can't say, well, I want to serve half of the community. I want to serve a quarter of the community. If you want to serve, you have to serve, right? And to be able to serve, to me, successfully and effectively, you have to know what the community feels. What's the pulse, right? What's the heartbeat of the community? And so you do that by talking to them and engaging. And again, I think that people have misunderstood that if I have someone and talks with them, that means that I agree with them. And that's not it at all. What it is that I'm saying that they're human. They have a right to thought. They have a right to voice it in my presence, right? Wherever, I can't judge wherever else, but yeah.
I think that's a really interesting example of the practice, because I'm assuming that traditionally when people are coming to you and saying like, oh, you must believe with these thoughts, or you must align with this if you're hosting them or platforming them, as they would like to say.
Why are you giving them a platform? Yeah.
And then that becomes, are we doing the opposite if we're not? And that's the real question, right? And I think that's a weird intersection that a lot of folks are at right now of understanding how we've built this idea of inclusion versus now how do we need to adjust and move to better put our arms around everyone truly? Like, were we practicing some disclusion with that inclusion?
Yes. And listen, I tell people, move the way you feel comfortable, right? If you don't want to talk about that with someone, don't do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to, right? No one's forcing that, but you don't get to tell me I can't, right? And so the thing is that I have no problem talking to this person about that. If you don't want to, don't, right? And that's cool. And I don't judge you for that. But for me, I have always, I mean, my mother, she loves to tell stories about me when I was younger. You should have her on here. She can tell.
Actually, hold on, Mom. Come on.
You know, she loves to talk about this, but I've always been a person that was curious about people since I was little. I've always walked up to people and asked. I mean, a couple times I got lost, but she lost me. That's why I said you lost me. I didn't lose myself.
You're walking around downtown at a Bengals game or something
in New York City.
Oh, okay.
I ended up in a cab. Yes, at a cab. It was a cab lot where they all sit, and I'm talking to this cab driver.
Are you telling me they ripped your story off for Home Alone too?
Oh yeah, that was. Yeah, and so I mean, I've always been that person. And so this is not something that I've created or a trend or anything. This is truly who I am. So I will always kind of walk in that.
Let's continue this conversation, but real quick, how'd your mom get you back out of the cab?
So the cab driver, she happened to know, right?
Okay.
And so her friend that lives there that we were going to visit, it was her husband. But
oh, thank God.
But she didn't know that I even found them or that they found me, and I was off talking, and then I went out. Yeah, I mean, but she has a story about a nursing home where, you know, we would go there on Sundays when I grew up. We would go to nursing homes and kind of check on people who were there, and I'm supposed to be visiting one person. She's looking for me. I'm down the hall in somebody else's room. I've always been like that. So, yeah.
Well, and we appreciate you bringing people together, and I think it's a very selfless act to, and honestly, having those tough conversations on the side with people you probably love and care a lot about, and feels like you have a lot of love for people in general. I think a lot comes with that. So just really appreciate that work and appreciate the tough days I'm sure you encounter with it as well. So.
Yeah.
So how many live shows have you had now?
So this past year, I will say we had 11 the past year.
It's amazing.
It is phenomenal. I mean, we've had partnerships. That's what makes it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, people that say yes, and that's the thing is that you can have a vision all day long, but if you don't have people, no man is an island, right? So if you don't have people that say yes along the way, you're kind of by yourself. So, we've had partnerships with the Midland Area Community Foundation. Woo, woo. We had a partnership with Bay Area Community Foundation, which I'm just so.
They're great.
I mean, amazing to work with, amazing. And so then we did one show with Saginaw Area Community Foundation and then one with Central Michigan.
That's awesome.
And so, we had 11 shows this past year. So altogether, I don't even know because the year before we had some as well. So.
And when you first started working with the Midland Area Community Foundation, what did that look like for you? And we've had you at our Ripple Effect celebration to talk a little bit about your journey, but I just love to retouch on it because I think it's just wonderful the way that we've been able to partner and bring that together for good forever for all. If you're talking about a community foundation, we want to be for everyone. So what did that partnership look like from your lens?
You know what? I really, because it was based in trust, right? Because as we know, a lot of times, grants come with so much stipulation, right? Where you can't use, $5 has to go specifically here and there. And they said, okay, what will it cost for you to do this, essentially? And then, okay, we're going to give it to you and trust that you're going to use that for that. And that was a big deal because being a newer organization, a newer nonprofit, and then a lot of people that were in the philanthropy world didn't really know me and know the basis of what my work was. To have someone say yes really helped be a catalyst for us, for other people to say, you know what, okay, maybe we do want to look into this. Maybe we do want to help. So, I mean, that was wonderful. It was just amazing. And the fact that, I sat with Alicia and she just said, okay, let's do it. And I already had a series worked out. I already was ready because I'm the kind of person that I plan ahead and I think, okay, I have to be ready when someone says yes. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. And when you say Alicia, that's our Director of Community Impact, Alicia Christie. And we weren't really naming it at that particular time, but the principles are trust-based philanthropy, and that's something we're really leaning into at the Community Foundation. of, trusting our nonprofits and trying to remove those barriers because there's so many barriers in philanthropy and, between funder and recipient and what that looks like. And it's just beautiful to see it in practice. And
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you using those words directly and honestly with us. So.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
it was life changing for us for what we wanted to do because as you know, when you have this idea, you want it to become right. And I'm the kind of person, I'm very persistent and very focused. But you need someone to say yes. And so with Midland Area Community Foundation doing that, I think it really helped because actually how we met Bay Area Community Foundation was. You all had us there as a simulation to kind of show what a live show would look like.
Yeah, right here at Ashman Plaza
Yeah.
at Live Oak.
Yes, for the retreat.
Yep.
And for the nonprofit, the Community Foundation's retreat. And so that's when I met Diane. And she came up right after and said, "Do you do these outside of Midland?" "We do."
Well, we can.
Exactly. Let's go. And she said, "Well, I don't want you to just come once. I want you to come a couple of times." I said, "Honey, we got a whole series. We already can, And so she said, "Let's do it." And within 3 weeks, not even 3 weeks, we were set to go in Bay City. So, it's just been beautiful. It's just been such a gift. So.
And when you say a series, what do you mean by a series? What type of topics are you covering?
Yep. So with that particular series, that was our Including You series, and we launched it here in Midland, and then took it to Bay City, and we cover societal expectations, bias and judgment, empathy, compassion. I think tolerance, religion, morality, and the big picture. And the whole idea of a series for me, when I constructed it, was for each topic, each show to build on top of each other, right? So the idea is that we start with societal expectations. What do people even expect of us? And then we jump into our bias and judgment and how that can conflict with what people expect from us. And so then we end with the big picture. And so along the way, the whole idea is for people to come to each one and to grow and evolve and learn and listen throughout the whole series. So at the end, we have this ending of some type of change, right, or impact.
Now, it's been a heck of a journey from you coming here and even those first 5 or 6 years not really feeling like home or feeling like this is a place for you to now being a real change maker. So I'm going to challenge you and ask you that same question again that I asked earlier. How would you describe Midland now? Or
Sure.
from your point of view. Obviously, my Midland's different than your Midland. So.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Midland is home, of course, now. I've been here for 20 plus years. And so it is home. And you know what I found? And I know this, I don't hope this doesn't go around the question, but I found for me after those 5-6 years that I had to create a space that I wanted to see. So I had to start doing something and not wait for it to be something for me, right? So I had to say, you know what? I'm here, right? My children go to school here. They'll be here for a while. My mother is here, so I want to, help with her. And so I'm here, so I have to create the change that I want to see, right? So the idea was, so you asked the question, is Midland, what is it now? It's home for me, right? Because I created a home here, right? So it was something that I had to do and not kind of sulk or be sad. And really, honestly, I didn't want to be sad, right? It just was, what am I doing here? I think everybody wants to know that they have purpose. And then too, just to kind of touch on this, when I'm leaving a situation that was unhealthy.
Yeah.
And then, I'm a young mother of 4 children that I have to parent while trying to find my new direction, right? That's a lot, going through a divorce.
Absolutely.
All this stuff was happening at one time. And as I talked about with the people, with us in 2020, you either explode or implode. And that's what I was going through. I was just trying to find out, okay, how do I reinvent myself? What do I do? What's my worth here? Because everybody I met here in Midland would ask me, was I dour or corny? That was how they greeted
Oh my God.
They greeted me.
Oh, diversity in Midland. You must work at the chemical spot.
What? So everybody would ask, they would go, dour or corny? And I would go,
Mother?
I don't know.
Like,
Neither one, and so
citizen?
I know. So that really set a precedent for me of where people were in regards to association, how they view people, right? So for me, and that's not a knock, I think that's just the culture, right? So for me, I just said, you know what, I need to create a space that people like me feel comfortable in, right? And when I say like me, people who are kind of the weirdos and the outsiders and the different, the change makers or visionaries or creatives, right? Find those spaces. And if you can't find it, then create it. You have to create it. Yeah.
we talk a lot about community role on this show, and I think role is the most important thing somebody can figure out when they're functioning within a community because, like you were talking about, you were going through a lot of stuff personally.
Sure. Yeah.
So that affects the way that you feel outward towards your community.
Sure.
But also your community can affect the way that you feel inward towards yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a really important relationship that you have that good reciprocal nature to move back and forth with the place that you're in and the people that you're around. And I've seen so much growth in this space, even in the last 5 or 6 years, even with a building like Live Oak, being able to foster connections with people. And you walk through and it's a wonderful third place and where creatives can thrive and people can find homes. And we had Jazz on the show, and I loved hearing Jazz give the testimony of, I wanted to find a place where I was loved, and I found that here in Midland, and more specifically within that role and that community piece. So it's just awesome, and that's a journey that we all kind of have to go on individually.
No, yeah, Jazz, I've known Jazz for 13, 14 years. I met Jazz.
They're an amazing person.
Years ago, and it's so funny how we just kept finding each other. We kept finding each other, and then that's what brought me and kept me at Live Oak, quite honestly, is I happened upon this place, and I came in to get coffee, and Jazz was behind the counter. And I was like, and I had been looking for Jazz for years because we just kept seeing each other and would just kind of connect. And so I said, oh, well, if you're here, then I'll keep coming here. And so that's kind of how that took place.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So awesome. And love seeing the journey that the Breaking Bread Village has embarked on, but the journey continues. So what does it look like moving forward throughout 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, so this year we are doing the live show tour experience. And so that is going to be fun. So the idea is to kind of drop into different cities, right? And have these talks as opposed to doing a Planet series, right? Where we're just in one spot every time. And the idea is to hopefully bring more people in, expose other people to the work that we do, and to build more community and connections. So we're going to go around to all over the Great Lake Bay region. And so it's going to be, we're stopping here in Midland first. We'll be in Saginaw, Mount Pleasant, and Bay City. So,
do you have a date on that first Midland show yet?
We do, March 25. Yep. We're going to be over at Venue 63.
Awesome.
And so we're going to, because the whole idea is to like kind of highlight small businesses and partner. And what's so cool about that space is that, it used to be Creative 360. And that's where we did our very first show. So we want to kind of go back to the space where we started and start there. So
I can talk about Venue 63 all day. I've known April for 20 plus years.
Have you? Okay. Yeah.
Lance, her son, he's our web developer at the Community Foundation. His office is in there with DC Tree Marketing. So great people, and shout out to my Beaverton folks. So
I only met is it Tom?
Yep, Tom.
Yeah,
Tom, April's husband, Tom.
Yeah,
yep.
I only met Tom, and so I have not met Lance. We talked a little bit via email, but I've heard great things about them. So
I'll put in the good word.
Oh yeah. Good,
they're awesome over there, and they have an awesome space too. I'm sure they'll be on the show eventually to talk about Venue, and
they're doing
really,
great things.
really good place. So just really excited about the work that you have going on, and hopefully we see everybody out there on March 25th. They have time to plan, so this episode's out in February. If you're listening to it currently, March 25th, come on out.
Yeah.
So excited for that. Traditionally on the show, we do a draft, and that draft is where we go through a few topics, and we might count down 5. And Grant Marshall and I did our favorite third places. Mike Williams and I did sports moments, and we've had all these drafts across the board, but we've been reflecting a lot on this particular episode and talking about journeys. So I just wanted to put a little challenge out to you. Instead of doing a draft, I wanted to ask you maybe 2 or 3 aha moments since the Breaking Bread Village is formed, or maybe things that stuck out to you that might have been a surprise, or just those exclamation point moments that you've experienced.
Yeah, that's a great question, because so when you go into this work, right, you hope that there's impact. I mean, that's the whole point, right? That people are impacted and there's some type of evolution or change.
And the story has to write itself. There's not the ending. It's not like you go into a play and you already know what's going to transpire. You have no idea what's about to transpire.
You have no idea what people are going to say. You have no idea how people are going to respond. And we don't go into any type of expectation of change, right? The idea is that we hope that people take something from it. But when those moments do happen, even though you hope for it, when it happens, it's still like, oh, it actually happened, right? You're like, oh, this is great. And so we have people who, because I strategically place people at the table, right? So people sit next to each other who have very differing perspectives and opinions, right? And I think for me, one of the moments that really stuck out is when two of the people at the table, we call them guests invited to the table. And once they realized that, oh, I want to know more about you, they met up for coffee later, right? And kept the conversation going, became Facebook friends, and still keep in touch. That to me is a aha moment for me, right? That wow moment, because these are two people that would have probably never been in the same spaces together. They would have never really looked to have conversation, and now they are. We had another lady who came to a show. They had not spoke to her brother for 2 years because of who he voted for in an election. And after our show, she emailed me and said that she reached out to him to talk because she loves her brother, right?
Of course.
And so those are the type of moments that really say, okay, look, we can keep going with this. We can keep going because there is real change. Because a lot of times people always ask for stuff that you can kind of quantify, and they want data and they want all this stuff, which is great. Data is wonderful. But for us, a lot of the work and change that we see, you can't quantify. Like it's literally just people realizing maybe I was going about this wrong, or maybe both of us can be right at the same time, or maybe I can honor where you are just like you can honor where I am. We had a gentleman that shared his story about why he keeps guns in his house, right? There's a lady that does not like guns and how she thinks no one should have it. And he told a story about how when he was younger, someone came into his home and violated his mother, and he felt helpless because he was a young, child that could not defend his mother. And he vowed that he would always keep something in his home to protect his house. That's why he feels, And so the point is that we don't have to agree with each other's walk, our journey, but we can at least respect it. We can at least listen. And those are the moments like that where when people, you see that change on their face at the table and they go, oh, okay. And a lot of that defensiveness kind of goes down. Those are the moments that mean everything to me. And I'm like, okay, it's actually happening, right? And so, yeah.
And that's so important for us to move forward as a community. And Max Loves Midland above all is, I always call it a community like an emotional infrastructure initiative where we are trying to build the emotional infrastructure of our community.
Yeah.
And how are we reinforcing that we can have connections across the board to accomplish great things?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, I'm hoping everybody wants our community to succeed.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's the hope, right?
And to be able to say the word succeed too. But anyway,
I know.
struggling a little bit. Words are tough.
Okay.
But
No,
to be able to
okay.
foster this place where we can all work together and move the community forward, and those conversations are so important, especially in gnarly political times, honestly.
I know. And to acknowledge, right, that's where that intellectual, because you're talking about like emotional maturity, right?
Right.
And when you think about like intellectual humility, it's the idea that success may look different, right? My success for me, for a community, maybe look different than yours.
Right.
And that's okay. But let's talk through it. Let's see why. Because I really, truly believe that most of us want the same things in regards to like being, healthy, safe, feeling good about yourself.
Yeah.
All those look different though, right? They look different for different people. Safety for one is like the gentleman having weapons in the home. Someone else's safety is not, right? So we still want safety, but it looks different. So, but if we don't talk about it, an open space to actually like listen to people as opposed to trying to debate and argue, then we'll never get to any type of growth or change. Yeah, if we don't take that time.
Awesome. And, we're going to end this episode the same way we end every single episode. And I have to ask you, looking forward at the future of Midland.
Yeah.
What is something that you look forward to for our community?
Yeah. Just what I just said, that we understand that our journeys may look different, that navigating through life may look different, success may look different, but just take the time to have a cup of coffee, right? Sit down and talk. And to me, that is how those ripple effects take place. Like, I know sometimes people look for these grand acts. Sometimes it's very simple. Sit down, have a discussion, ask questions, be curious, don't make assumptions, and respect a person's position. We're not here to change your mind. We're here to listen to you and value you as a human. So that's how I look at it. I know that sounds like kind of broad, but that is my hope every day for Midland, that people take more time to have that cup of coffee and exchange that dialogue as opposed to beating each other up. So
Absolutely. We're going to have you back to have another cup of coffee sometime because I have a feeling you and I will have a lot more to talk about down the road as well.
We can talk all day. Yeah.
Speaking of talking all day, have you ever considered getting into the podcasting space at all? Or
I know people keep saying that, and
your work is close, right?
No, I know.
This is not much different than us sitting down breaking some bread, right?
I know. I mean, is there some?
I don't know.
No, okay.
I got like.
No, I have thought about it. I just feel like everybody has a lane, and I think people are doing it so well. And I wonder, so we used to do it more so in a video form.
Yeah.
We had our 5 conversations that we did where we talked to somebody one-on-one. Matter of fact, Jazz was on for that. And so I'm thinking about getting that started because there are some conversations I want to have one-on-one with people that you can't go into depth on a stage, right? So
that's cool.
Yeah. There's some things in the works for this year too that we're still working on. So we shall see.
Absolutely.
We shall see.
Well, Erin, appreciate you being here with us today.
Always love talking to you, Kevin.
Love having a good conversation, and I know we'll be seeing each other soon. And
yes.
Not only will I be seeing you soon, I'll be seeing y'all soon as well. Make sure you're coming back next week. Max Loves Midland show. We've had such a good outpouring of support. We were running some numbers the other day, over 44,000 views now on Facebook, and that's just amazing, and that's great support for a community initiative featuring Midlanders here. So as we always say at the end of every single episode, if you build a bridge and it doesn't work, build a tridge.
Build a tridge. I love it.
Subscribe wherever you consume media. Max Loves Midland is your entertainment, resources, and collective improvement hub for Midland County. Plan your next adventure in Midland at maxlovesmidland.com.